I'm Chuck Pippin. I'm going to teach you the easiest and quickest way to learn how to use a bait casting rod and reel. It's pretty simple, but there's more to it than just putting your thumb on the spool before your lure hits the water. There's a lot of choices when it comes to bait casting rods and reels. I use all 13 fishing products. This is an Inception G2 with a Muse Black rod. What I would recommend when you're just starting out is get a medium heavy rod in that 7 foot to 7'3" range. Here we have a 7'3" medium heavy with a medium fast tip. I think it's medium fast, extra fast tip. It's a medium heavy rod. I just have an 8-inch trick worm on here with a 1/4 ounce weight. When you're first starting to cast, I would stay away from some of the baits that don't throw very well. You don't want a real big heavy bait. You don't want something like a spinner bait because they tend to catch the wind, or something real light like a fluke or a soft plastic jerk bait because they can be more difficult to cast. So I'd start out with something that's a little more streamlined, like a Texas rig worm or a jig or even a crankbait. Sometimes some of the heavier crankbaits are a little easier to cast. We're going to get into the best settings for your reel, but first let's talk about line. Everybody likes braided line, everybody likes fluorocarbon. Monofilament's not cool anymore, but trust me, in my years of teaching people how to throw bait casters, monofilament is by far the easiest line to learn on. You want to be careful not to overspool it or put too much line on. As you can see here, I have this one spooled up to about 1/8 of an inch out to the edge of the spool. Let's get into the settings. When you first get a brand new bait caster, when you first take it out of the box, you got it full of line, you put on your brand new rod, you have no idea what you're doing. Most reels these days come with either a centrifugal brake or a magnetic brake. Whatever type you have, turn it all the way. A lot of them go up to 10, the magnetic ones. I would turn that all the way up to 8 or 10. All the way up when you're just starting out. This has a centrifugal brake. This reel's broken in. I still have it set at 4. Eventually I'll have it down about 2, but when you first take these out of the box, if you have a 13 fishing reel, I've done other videos on this, you want to turn that little tab right there all the way up to a 5 or a 6. The next adjustment you have is your tension knob. It's about the same on every bait caster. Just tighten that down until your bait's just barely falling when you push your button in. See how it's just barely falling? It's not free falling, and it's not just staying where it's at. Very important. When you're casting, you want to have one of your fingers on the trigger. A lot of people when they're casting like to put that trigger right here that's on the bottom of the rod between their index and middle finger, just like this. As you get used to casting, I usually fish like this between my last 2 fingers. I just kind of leave my hand here and pull it back. Whatever's more comfortable, it doesn't matter, as long as you have 1 finger, 2 fingers like that split on that trigger right there. For demonstration purposes, when we're casting, I'm going to hold it between my index and my middle finger here. As soon as you push that button, it's obviously on free spool. If you let your thumb off the spool, your bait's going to fall just like this. What I'm going to do, as soon as you push your button, your thumb's already on here. You don't need to put a death grip on it, but just rest your thumb on the spool. I see a lot of people when they're first learning to throw a bait caster, they do a big sidearm sweep because they feel like they have a little more control over it and they're not throwing their bait directly at the water, which is going to cause, if you've already attempted this, a lot of times if you throw that bait straight down in the water, your muscle memory is not going to remind you to hit that spool with your thumb to stop it from overspinning because you haven't cast enough. So they'll go into a sidearm cast, but because you're not that experienced yet, you don't really know when to release or anything like that, so you don't have a control over exactly which direction your bait is going. I always recommend, if you want to learn the quickest to make accurate casts, is to start with an overhand cast. If some of you are coming from using spinning rods and reels, you'll notice that most of the time you're casting them over the shoulder, the reel's over the shoulder of the rod that you're holding. I would recommend with a bait caster to use 2 hands. Put this other hand down here. That way you're not, when you let your thumb off the spool here, you're basically, if I was casting and I just using 1 hand and I have my thumb off, I'm now just gripping the rod with the edge of my palm and whatever fingers I have on the rod. So I would recommend taking, once you push that button, take your other hand and go here. If you throw over the shoulder that you're holding the reel in, you're not going to have much range of motion coming back, and I'll get to why you need to be able to come back easy, come all the way back. You'll notice if you go this way, get your elbows up, get this elbow to where it's about level with your chin, maybe a little bit lower. See how much easier it is to bring that rod tip all the way back past parallel back this way. if I go this way, you can do it, but you're arching your back this way, or you got to open up and do one of these big surf casting type casts. So I would recommend, if you have your reel in your right hand, push the button, fingers on either side of the trigger, take your other hand, which happens to be my left hand because I cast right-handed, put it down here and come across your body. And the reason you want to be able to come all the way back is so that you can train yourself to not let go of the spool too late. If you just come right here, you're looking at a spot, I want to hit the hole right out here, and you cast like that, you're gonna hit the wall. You're not gonna let go of the button early enough, or you're not gonna let go of the spool early enough, and that bait's gonna rocket straight down to the water. You probably won't put your thumb back on the spool early enough, and you're gonna get a big backlash. Here's the biggest secret I've learned at teaching people how to throw a baitcaster. When you're first starting out, get out away from the shore, get out in some open water, and pick out a nice puffy cloud. It's partly cloudy out here today, Central Florida. It's about 100 degrees, but we got a little bit of cloud cover. Pick out a puffy cloud at about that angle right there, and forget about the water and cast your bait at that cloud. Cast it at the cloud. If you're thinking about casting it at that cloud or anything that's elevated, cast it at an angle about like that. It's going to make you come back further, and it's going to make you let go of the spool earlier, which is going to keep you from rocketing or projecting that bait straight at the water. So you're going to come back like this and throw up and out. That was about a 30 or 40 yard cast right there. Go over that one more time. Bait's 36 inches. I have my button pushed down, my thumb's resting on the spool, left hand's down here. I come across my body. My elbow right here is just a little bit below my chin. Allows me to bring the baitcaster, the rod all the way back, throw up and out, up. Just beat that into your head, but you gotta throw up and out. Up, it's sailing out. That gives me more time to remember to put my thumb on the spool. Over the years, I've taught a lot of people this technique. There's a lot of grass out here. I've taught people this technique, and I get them casting a baitcaster as further than they've ever casted. Then I'll take them up to a shoreline or give them a target to cast at, and the first thing they do, because now they're focusing at a point on the water, and I'll watch their body language change. It comes from being loose like this and casting up and out to they lean forward and they're looking straight at that thing. Whatever they're casting at, the grass line, piling, or whatever stick that's sticking out of the water, they do this right here. Rod's barely past vertical, back this way, and they rocket it straight down. Because now they're thinking of throwing it straight there. They let go of the spool too late, and they get a big backlash. So, one more time, buttons down, rod's here, across your body, across, up, and out. Obviously, this is for beginners. For anybody that's just starting out with a baitcaster, let me know your thoughts and give me some suggestions of any other how-to videos. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, give me a like, shoot me some comments, and we'll see you next time.